Live from the slightly twisted deck bar, it's the Poojie Podcast with Justin Lemie.
The Poojie Podcast is proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club, located in Jacksonville, Florida, off County Road 210, just west of St. John's Parkway.
Yes, as always, thank you to Strings Sports Brewery for supporting the podcast. They do a great job there on Main Street, just north of downtown Jacks. Enjoy going there. Might have to go there in a few days on Thursday for $5 burgers. Who knows? Jacob, if you're down here on the panel, $5 burgers at Strings. Let's do it. But I'm excited to have the panel back for week 2 of the NFL season. Jaguars starting the season off 1-0, one of 16 teams that are currently undefeated. An amazing feat in Jacksonville, first time since 2011. The Blaine Gabbert years, we want to forget those. But you're listening on Wednesday, September 16th. We are recording on Tuesday, September 15th. And tonight is Game 5 of the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the New York Islanders, the Cinderella team in the New York Islanders. The Lightning look to cap off that series in advance to the Stanley Cup Finals versus the Dallas Stars, who upset the Vegas Golden Knights last night in Game 5 themselves. Also, Clippers versus Nuggets Game 7 tonight to see who's going to advance to play the LeBron-led Los Angeles Lakers. Sorry, that's a mouthful. As well as the Heat versus the Celtics Game 1 this evening. You're listening on Wednesday. That game has already been completed. Who knows who's going to be winning? We'll have a recap show. The NBA and the NHL panel are both coming on at the end of this week for the Stanley Cup preview as well as the Conference Finals NBA preview. But for now, we're here to talk football. Week 2 preview, Week 1 recap. We're here with the panel. So let's welcome in Jacob Yurtical. Jacob, if you want to jump in with me real quick, your Week 1 intrigue matchup last week was between the Cardinals and the 49ers. Your prediction last week was Kyler Murray would upset the 49ers, and look what he did at the 4 o'clock slate last Sunday. Kyler Murray did just that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was a little upset because while I picked the upset, I specifically said he'd have 3 touchdowns and 1 on the ground, 2 in the air. And if you saw, there was a play he had to DeAndre Hopkins late in the game, and Hopkins just got dropped right at the 1-yard line, literally inches away from me being dead on. I just think Kyler Murray showed that this year might be his breakout, just kind of like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in the past. He's got the wheels to really put any defense that tries to contain him, and then he's got the arm to go against anybody. So this might be his year to really break out.
And your Jaguar prediction for last week, 27-24. Jaguars missed it by 4 points. In our favor, actually, 27-20. Jags won by 7. You had C.J. Henderson picking off Phillip Rivers twice. Picked him off once in the beginning of the game, was looking for that second interception later on, almost hit that on the head as well. Who would your Week 1 winners and losers be throughout the NFL last week?
I mean, I think you would just probably, for a Week 1 winner, you'd have to say anything related to the Jags because nobody gave us credit for anything. But I really want to say C.J. Henderson. I know a lot of you guys doubted him. I know a lot of fans doubted him coming in. 9th pick, we take C.J. Henderson, not Jeff Okudah. We didn't have that shot. I really believed in him watching the tape before the draft, and I was excited to see him show everybody that believed in him right, because he didn't just have a good game for a rookie. He just straight up had a good game for maybe a 5 to 10 year vet, Pro Bowler vet. He had the interception against the Hall of Famer as well as a big pass deflection to win the game. I think he's my winner. My loser, there's a lot of people, but I would say the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, you lost to the nameless football team, and they came in with a lot of hype, but it's the football team, no one was expecting them to do anything, so it's just probably a bad day for Philly fans.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. That loss for Philadelphia was definitely a difficult one, I'm sure, to stomach. But let's go over to Luke. Luke, your intrigue matchup last week between the Rams and the Cowboys, definitely a high-performing game as far as quality to watch. Rams getting the victory there, 20-17. What were your thoughts in that matchup, as well as your hot take that you had for last week?
Yeah, so that game obviously came down to the wire. At the very end, there was a questionable call on Jalen Ramsey and Michael Gallup. He might have shoved him off, but it was very, very light. 99% of the time you'll see that not get called. And so I can see from the Dallas Cowboys point of view, they're like, why did that determine the game for us? But Jalen Ramsey did sell it a little bit, so the flag was thrown, and then the Rams went on to win. My hot take from last week was actually Henry Ruggs is going to be a top 10 receiver. He did get a lot of production, was tackled inside the 10-yard line twice, and then Josh Jacobs kind of cleaned it up. But if he would have scored those 2 times, he would have been right up there. So Henry Ruggs did perform pretty well for his rookie debut.
And let's briefly talk about that Jaguar prediction you had. Slightly off. Your calculations were slightly off.
Yeah.
24-14 you had in favor of the Colts. How humiliating. How embarrassing.
God. It's so embarrassing. Oh, my God. You know what? I'll take that. I'll happily be proven wrong if it means the Jaguars win. So I'll take that.
I can agree with that. I like that. Swallow the sword there. I like it. Sam, let's flip over to you. Your intrigue matchup last week was Washington football team versus the Eagles, which Jacob already briefly hit on. What were your thoughts there, as well as your week 1 hot take, James Robinson's production for the Jaguars?
Hey, so Philadelphia versus Washington football team, like I said, that front 4 first-rounders really came after Carson Wentz gave him trouble, from the start of the game all the way to the end of the game. Eagles had some trouble getting some offense going. They had a couple deep shots, but, their short game, I guess missing Miles Sanders was a pretty big deal for them, but they'll look to bounce back in week 2. Matchup between Darius Slay and Scary Terry. I heard he put some fantasy points on the board for some people. I didn't really get to watch exactly what happened between those two, but yeah, that man's pretty good. As far as James Robinson, really exciting for Jags fans. The dude actually looks like he's got vision, cuts, explosiveness. The speed through the hole I thought was really interesting to watch. You see his 40 time, I think it was a 4.64. But, when he hits that hole, he hits it at full speed and leaves some defenders kind of grasping it as, above the waist. Can't really get a hold of him, get him down. So, yeah, as far as other players that I really liked in that game, I liked Laviska Shenault. I thought he looked great in his first game.
And you had Jags 31-20, so you hit the Colts number right on the head and gave us actually 4 points. So 31-20, Jags got the victory. We'll chalk it up for a W for you. Good job there. Who are your week 1 winner, losers, if you have one?
Week 1 losers. I think you guys watched that game last night with the Denver Broncos versus the Titans. Drew Lock. Everybody talks about the man's explosiveness, his confidence, and I don't know. You just can't have, explosiveness doesn't mean anything if you're not hitting your target. Confidence doesn't mean anything if your players are kind of like, oof, man, like you're real off target on these. So. I don't know, kind of happy for once to have a good QB in Jax. You can kind of look at everyone else and be like, man, they're struggling when we're sitting pretty, huh?
And Luke, real quick, do you have a week 1 winner and loser? I realized I forgot to ask you.
Yeah, I'd say my week 1 winner would probably be Russell Wilson. You let him just run the offense, and you saw what he did against Atlanta. He had a really, really good day. Week 1 losers, it's either the Detroit Lions fans or Matt Stafford, because his whole career has been with the Lions and it's just seemed to be just gone downhill. And for the Detroit Lions fans, a 21-point just collapse in the fourth quarter to Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears, and then to cap it off with a dropped touchdown to win the game. That's just, oof, I can't even live with that.
Very, very painful for the Lions fans. As for me, I had the Seahawks-Falcons as my intrigue matchup. Somewhat lived up to expectations, was a high-scoring game. Russell Wilson hit those 4 touchdowns, 300-plus yards. For my hot take, Jags defense fell short of the 7 sacks. Did not take into calculation Phillip Rivers' release time. He does a very good job of getting the ball out, so it was good to see that. DK Metcalf, 95 yards and a touchdown, fell short of my 125-plus yards and 2 touchdowns, but still very productive day for DK Metcalf. In my prediction, 24-20 Jags, fell 3 points shy, a Josh Lambo field goal shy of or too much of a field goal for Josh Lambo after that interception by Andrew Wingard with the field goal there to go up 27-20. I had 24-20 Jags. So 3 victories on the panel. We are not with Kyle Verban today. He was not able to make it. He had a victory for the Jags as well, 24-17. So that's 4 out of the 5 analysts picking correctly in favor of the Jags. He had the Saints-Bucks matchup as his intrigue matchup, which pretty much performed well as far as the Saints were concerned. Tom Brady, however, had more interceptions in his day than Gardner Minshew had incomplete passes in his. So not the best day from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And his week 1 hot take was Gabe Davis steals the spotlight. He did get the start for the Bills, and he did have 2 catches for 16 yards. So decent outing by a rookie receiver, 4th-round receiver, in an offense that doesn't necessarily see too much production from the receivers. I'm sure he will look forward to stepping it up. But let's bring Jacob back in real quick. And if you want to give us your recap real quick for the Jags week 1 matchup and a brief week 2 intrigue matchup that you're looking at.
Well, I think the Jags matchup against the Colts, it didn't really start in a positive way. Not that it was like too negative. I think a lot of people were just unsure that it was going to end the way it did because we were kind of letting the Colts, move down the field on us consistently. Long story short, by the end of the game, we found out our defense was kind of bend don't break, which was awesome. Offensively, that first drive, James Robinson really, popped off. I was seeing cuts and runs bounce outside like I hadn't seen before with Fournette. And slowly and surely, everything started to kind of show that while our defense isn't going to be that dominant, we're going to force you 3 and out every drive, that they might let some yards up, but they're going to hold strong. I think Avery Jones had a really amazing play when he stopped that first 4th and 1 near the end zone and kind of gave us the ball back. The defense, C.J. Henderson, I don't think I've seen, a rookie have such a crazy week 1 performance like that, where he's literally on Michael Pittman on a go route, turns his head, sees Phillip Rivers about to throw a TY out route, and just comes over and snatches that thing. I mean, we have guys that can make plays on defense, so it's pretty surprising to think we might not be as bad there as we thought. The offense, though, Minshew was efficient. He was a machine. He literally just did what he had to do, no more, no less. He hit everybody. I think he hit 10 receivers in total. So it's like if our offense can continue like that, we might have a good matchup next week against the Titans, who looked a little rough. I think Derrick Henry struggled last year against the Broncos as well. So we don't know if last night's Titans team is what we're going to find out with the Jags next week. But if the Jags can slow down Derrick Henry at all, maybe we have a shot with the offense and our inability, or a team's inability to game plan for us, because we're just all over the field offensively.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things you said there. Minshew hitting 10 receivers. D.D. Westbrook was a healthy scratch, a receiver that many Jags fans were looking forward to during the offseason, seeing what he could become. Obviously, an exciting target out of Oklahoma. Waiting to see what he can become. A healthy scratch, still hit 10 targets. It just kind of shows what the offense has as far as weapons go. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you mentioned it could have gotten ugly very early. It could have been a 14-point game within the first 6 minutes. Avery Jones, the veteran defensive tackle, held strong, got the ball back from Minshew, made things start to happen. 3 points allowed by the Jags defense in the second half of the game. Mind you, that was coming off an 8-minute drive for the Colts that had 3 third-down penalties in it. So what I was happy about was seeing the defense be able to mitigate issues, mitigate penalties, and they held the Colts to a field goal after allowing 3 first downs on 3rd down due to penalties. Dwayne Smoot had some issues. There were some other ticky-tack calls that happened, but I was overall pleased that it was 17-14 at halftime. We allowed 3 points in the second half. So that was a good week 1 for us. I guess a win, any way you can get it, is a good week 1 for the Jaguars. What's your week 2 intrigue matchup, Jacob?
I wasn't finding one as well as I did last week, but when I really looked at the schedule, I think the Thursday night game between the Bengals and Browns has got to be my intrigue. I mean, we saw Joe Burrow nearly get his first W in his first start, and he honestly should have. I think they kind of just mismanaged the end of that game, and then Randy Bullock just pulled whatever leg he thinks he pulled and missed that kick. I was hearing he was like saying it was the other leg that hurt the next day, and I don't know what he was doing. But the Browns absolutely got destroyed by the Ravens, but it's the Ravens. So we're going to see the Browns, do they respond and do they turn things around with all that talent they have, or does Joe Burrow come out and potentially, with Joe Mixon in the backfield, earn his first W on a national spotlight?
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that about Joe Burrow's last drive there. My week 1 winners and losers, I didn't even give it. My winner, Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love drafted this past offseason. Aaron Rodgers just came out and said, hello, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Made Devontae Adams look like the Pro Bowl receiver he is. Alan Lazard looked like an amazing receiver, someone we're familiar here with in Jacksonville. My week 1 losers, NFL officiating on the offensive pass interference calls. That A.J. Green push-off was a little ticky-tack. The Michael Gallup hold was a little ticky-tack. There seemed to be a lot of offensive pass interference going on that affected games pretty drastically. And as Luke mentioned earlier, Jalen Ramsey doing his diva things, putting on a show for the fans and the refs, and maybe embellishing a little bit in that game towards the end after getting burned for a 35-yard reception by Michael Gallup. So those were my week 1 winners and losers. Luke, real quick, let's go to you. Week 2 intrigue matchup coming up this week.
I would say my week 2 intrigue matchup coming up this week is the Ravens and the Texans. I would say I feel sorry for them, but I don't, because they're the Texans. But they got the Kansas City Chiefs followed by the Baltimore Ravens. Mostly an intrigue game because I want to see the Baltimore Ravens just to completely run over the Texans. But it's interesting because Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, they kind of have a similar play style where they run it and they'll throw it. So it's going to be intriguing on that side. The defenses are kind of similar. I think the Ravens have a better one, but I think the Ravens are going to take that one by at least 2 scores, and I'm hoping it's more than that. So
that'll be a good one, especially for us AFC South fans already with a game in hand. Going to watch the Texans pretty closely there at 4 o'clock, hopefully after the Jaguars are already 2-0. Sam, what about you? Your intrigue matchup for week 2?
How's it going? Real quick, intrigue matchup. I think the most exciting game this week is Patriots at Seahawks up in Washington. Now those are 2 teams that are really started hot, huh? Like you watch the Patriots and Cam Newton score twice in the 5 yards, at the 5-yard line. How you stop that? You can stop him. You can't stop Julian Edelman. You can't stop the running backs coming out of the backfield. So, I mean, it's just week 1, so we'll see how teams can plan for it. But, right now, Cam Newton kind of looks like the Cam Newton from, 2015, 2016. They seem to be scheming him up pretty well. Seahawks are on fire right now with Russell Wilson. I heard the reports today that he really wants to get the offense going quick, get the ball out of his hand, stop all this running in the first half, do what Russ can do and cook it up.
Yeah, that is, simply put, just a fantastic Sunday night game. Very intrigued by that one. And I know you even mentioned last week when we were talking Patriots-Dolphins how you thought that there could be a few rushing touchdowns in there by the Patriots, both coming from Cam Newton. So good call on that one. For me, my intrigue matchup for week 2 is going to be the Falcons-Cowboys. I know I had the Falcons in my intrigue matchup last week, but I'm more so looking at this matchup because I think starting 0-2 in the NFL is an extremely difficult hole to come out of. Just from a moral standpoint, you're going to get so demoralized. You need that motivation. Even 1-1 is something you can build off of. 0-2 is going to be a rough start for either one of those teams after the heartbreaking loss by the Cowboys. And let's see if both of those offenses can start to pick up what people believed they could be going into this season. So I'm going to go Falcons-Cowboys. So Jacob gives us the Thursday night game. I give us a 1 o'clock game Sunday. Luke gives us the 4 o'clock game Sunday. And Sam gives us the Sunday night game between the Patriots and the Seahawks. A lot of really good games to look forward to this week. I know I'm looking at the scoreboard right now trying to figure out who I'm taking in my Survivor League. It's going to be difficult. The Bills got me the W in week 1. Let's roll into week 2 Jaguar preview. Luke, if you want to jump in real quick, maybe just something you're looking at for week 2 between the Jaguars and the Titans.
In between the Jaguars and the Titans, I mean, I like how we had a bend-don't-break defense. I will say the defense kind of helped us win the game there. When you look at the stats, most of the stats line up on the Colts side, but the 2 turnovers are huge, and that cut down on the field for us, so you don't really know if the Jaguars were going to drive down anyway. But what I don't want to see is them control the time of possession, as in the Titans, because that means Derrick Henry is going to be running down our throats. We had a pretty good rushing defense. I don't know if that played a factor because Marlon Mack went out. but I'd like to see that and also clean up some of those penalties, man. Dwayne Smoot, what are you doing, guy?
Yeah, definitely some week one excitement maybe getting in there for those penalties. That was a difficult encroachment there on 3rd and 5. We just had to hold them. Ultimately turned into the field goal that I talked about earlier. But, yeah, calm down those penalties. A lot of excitement there. I think a lot of young guys just trying to take advantage of the opportunity. And like you mentioned with the rushing game, I was there 7 rows up when Derrick Henry busted that 99-yard touchdown in Tennessee a few years back. And he ended up putting, I think, 4 touchdowns on the board that game. So it's going to be a huge test for this Jaguars defense against Derrick Henry. Sam, let's go to you, week 2 preview for the Jags.
Yeah, it's pretty much, what I'm thinking is that Derrick Henry, if we can stop him like the Broncos stopped him last night, get at his legs, get him behind the line of scrimmage, force them into attempting to kick field goals, then I think we're going to be sitting pretty. I want to see our pass rush, though. I didn't see much of. I know the Broncos, Von Miller's out. Didn't see them getting to the quarterback much in Ryan Tannehill. I don't want to see Tannehill escape the pocket and get around the corner. I think that could be real detrimental to us on trying to stop the run.
And I know both of you guys just hit on the defense and Derrick Henry. I'm going to go a little bit opposite. I'm going to say I want to see what Gardner Minshew is able to do against the young corners on Tennessee. I know they have really veteran safeties, Pro Bowl safeties there. We didn't see him take too many deep shots. I don't know if the safeties are going to come into play as frequently, but the corners, I know they have A.J. Terrell, someone we were looking at in the draft that we maybe wanted. I know they have another young corner on the other side, either a late-round draft pick or an undrafted free agent at the other side. So let's see if Gardner Minshew can kind of pick up where he left off and take advantage of some inexperience at the cornerback position. And now it's time to get into predictions. Jacob, let's jump into you for your week 2 prediction between the Jags and the Titans, as well as your week 2 hot take overall for the league and even Jacksonville.
Well, I haven't put an extreme amount of thought into this game. It's a tough one to predict just because, the Titans have had our number, like legitimately had our number for a good while now. But I want to say that I think that our run defense might be a little better than it was. I think we hold Derrick Henry to something a little more respectable than like 1,000,000 yards. I want to say this might be a little bit more lower scoring, and maybe I hope the Jags eke one out, maybe 24-17 or so. My hot take, I was really struggling to think of one, but I really think that C.J. Henderson is going to continue to show us that he's a star in the making. And I want to say he gets his next pick and possibly takes it to the house. That might be the hot take part. But I think C.J. Henderson this week really shows that week 1 wasn't a fluke and that he's a day 1 starter and a potential star.
I like it. 24-17 Jags, C.J. Henderson with a pick 6 to the house up in Nashville. Luke, what about you? Week 2 prediction, hot take.
Like I said, I'm going to go – it worked last time. I'm going to go with it this time, and I'm going to go against the Jaguars. And if I'm wrong, it's going to keep going until I'm 0-16 and the Jags are 16-0. Score will be 20-17. Gardner Minshew looked really good. He didn't have any careless passes. He only had 1 incompletion, which hit a guy in the hands. And then he just took sacks and didn't fumble the ball. So if he can keep control of the ball like that, I think our offense will be fine. But the running defense, I want to see how it stacks up against somebody like Derrick Henry. And the Tennessee Titans have had our numbers, so 20-17 Tennessee.
And did you give me a hot take for week 2? A week 2 hot take?
Week 2 hot take. I'm going to say that the Patriots actually go out and beat the Seahawks. That will honestly give a real test to say how good is Bill Belichick's defense, because he does a really, really good job of coaching that defense, and I think it'll be a tough test for the Seattle Seahawks to break that Patriots defense.
Awesome. Gotta love it. Sam, what about you? Week 2 prediction for the Jags and a potential hot take.
So I was pretty close last week. Obviously, I had the Jags winning. Unfortunately, this week, I think we're riding high off this last win. A lot of rookies on the team, and Titans always match up really well. Their running game matches up great. So I'm thinking 21-20. Titans eke it out by a point, and they get the last touchdown off a Corey Davis catch in the end zone. And late in the fourth quarter, Minshew doesn't have time, obviously, to come back and score for us. That's the only way. Otherwise, Minshew would be coming back. If they leave us any time, I would predict that they can come down and get us some points before the very end of the game. But if they're smart, they wouldn't let them do that.
And week 2 hot take just throughout the NFL, anything, or are you going with the Corey Davis touchdown at the end of the fourth?
Ooh, no, that's hot. But I got a good one for you guys. Leonard Fournette going up against the Carolina Panthers. You look at the Panthers' run D, man, anyone can score points on them. However, let's see Leonard Fournette finally step up in that offense and get at least 50 yards. Hot take is that he goes under 50. Ronald Jones gets a lot more carries and a lot more trust from that coaching staff. Fournette's kind of put on the deep back burner after this next game.
So this is Leonard Fournette's curtain call here. He's going to be behind the scenes after week 2, according to Sam Leggett, under 50 yards in a matchup where he should very well score, rush for over 75 or so. I'm looking at that. My week 2 prediction with the Jags, similar to Sam, I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say 17-16 in favor of the Titans. And I think what's going to happen is Gardner Minshew is going to score a touchdown with right around 5 minutes left in the fourth to bring it back 17-16. And then I think what's going to happen is the Jaguars are not going to be able to stop Derrick Henry, and they are going to run out the clock and run out the game. 17-16 in favor of the Titans. My week 2 hot take is going to be Aaron Rodgers, 5 touchdown passes against the Detroit Lions. I think he always performs well against the Detroit Lions. He is at home in this matchup. I'll even go a step further. I'll say 2 to Allen Lazard and 2 to Devontae Adams. Let's give 1 to, who knows, Aaron Jones out of the backfield. I don't know. But 5 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he even takes one in himself just to put a little sugar on top. But that's going to be my week 2 hot take. I think that's all for this episode as far as week 2 goes. Anything else from you guys? Anything, other matchups you're looking at, players, anything like that?
I think I almost wanted to say it as a hot take, but I think Kyler Murray, like I mentioned earlier, I think he's really going to pop off. He played against the Niners defense, but now he's going against the football team. So similar to what you said with Aaron Rodgers, I think he's just going to have a field day.
I like it. Anything else?
I saw somewhere on an NFL page that Gardner Minshew last week did what is called a Dawson. Essentially, you have to throw at least 10 times and have 3 or more touchdowns. More touchdowns than you have incompletions. So he had 3 touchdowns, only 1 incompletion. So he's completed the Dawson. Only happened, I think, 54 times or something like that.
That's up there. Hey, he also outperformed Patrick Mahomes in fantasy and was top 3 in quarterback rating. So those are numbers, those are stats, and you can't deny that. Better than Patrick Mahomes, $50 million man. All right, guys. Well, hey, I'm excited for week 2. We'll keep in touch and everything. I'll get these out tomorrow for the whole world to hear. So just remember, all of your hot takes and predictions are for everyone's ears, and we will catch you on the next episode. Y'all take care, okay? Duval. So again, thank you to Strings Sports Brewery for bringing you that interview, as well as to the panel for jumping on. We definitely missed Kyle Verben on this episode. Brought some great insight and energy last week. Going to try and reach out to get his picks anyway, just for the podcast purposes and record keeping on the Instagram page. If you enjoyed this episode, go to the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube now, it will be another video coming out on Saturday. If you're listening on Spotify or any other podcast streaming service, it will not be on a podcast streaming service. It will be exclusively on YouTube. Week 2 NFL preview bonus content. We dive deeper into the week 2 week, as well as Jaguars versus Titans matchup, some things to look at, uncut, unfiltered, additional content for week 2 of the NFL season, only on YouTube, the Poojie podcast on YouTube. But beginning tomorrow, we have PGA Tour Golf with the U.S. Open, so be on the lookout later this evening for my picks in the U.S. Open. Early thoughts, John Rahm, Xander Schauffele are going to be some favorites. I think Tyrrell Hatton might be someone, but if I'm looking at Englishmen as well, I'm looking at Tommy Fleetwood to potentially perform well. But I'm going to look further into that later today, get you those picks. It's going to be an exciting round of golf, or weekend of golf up at Winged Foot in New York. Extremely difficult course, 70 par 70, over 7,400 yards there. Just to kind of follow up on the beginning of this episode, mentioned that we recorded on Tuesday. This is now Wednesday that I'm recording this. The Lightning lost Game 5. They will play Game 6 against the Islanders tomorrow on Thursday. The Heat won Game 1 against the Celtics in a comeback fashion with a miraculous ending. Bam Adebayo block. NBA panel coming up on Friday for the conference finals preview, which has already started. And the Nuggets win Game 7 against the Clippers after an explosive second half, getting the job done, coming back from 3-1 down. An embarrassing series blown by the Clippers. Was going to be a battle of L.A., but as Magic Johnson said on Twitter, Lakers will and always have run L.A., and I guess that stands true today. So baseball still fighting to the end, getting into the playoffs here soon, going to get with the MLB panel shortly to try and get a playoffs prediction preview kind of come out in a little bit. NHL, we're going to postpone a little bit. That will come out on Friday as well, though, with the NBA conference finals preview. So until next time, thanks for tuning into episode 43. Go check out YouTube for more bonus content for week 2 of the NFL. Follow on Instagram, the Poojie Podcast. Follow on Twitter, jpooj17. Twitter, PoojieParlay. All that good stuff. And always be sure to follow and subscribe on any podcast streaming platform so you can listen to us on the go, in your car, at the gym, at work, wherever you're at, wherever life takes you. Today, life is taking me to the golf course. I may have to listen to myself. That's how much I enjoy this podcast. Told some friends at work, if you don't enjoy the content being put out, create your own, and that's what I've done. So until next time, go enjoy the rest of your week and go make this world a better place. Take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?
Be sure to follow our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other podcast streaming services, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out unique video elements for each interview.